continues to slide on pace for its worst month since May, currently below $48,000. And it's dragging anything linked to crypto down with it. Marathon Digital, Riot Blockchain, Coinbase getting hit yet again following yesterday's brutal session. So is this a buying opportunity or should investors steer clear? Danielle, for investing advice, I'll go to you first on that. What do you think? Are you a believer of buying on the crypto crunch?
Well, historically, when I'm looking at all of these names, I mean, they've really just been thrown in with the meme stocks, right? So whenever my clients ask me about these names, they say, hey, you know what? This has to be part of a YOLO portfolio. It cannot be mixed in with your regular assets, right? However, that being said, if you do want to strap on for the ride, I am looking at Mara. If it can hold 35, that's going to be at the 50 simple on the weekly chart. This company is showing a lot of sustainable growth, and due to the investments that they've made recently, I am looking for further growth in 2022.
Yeah, so Christina, do we know what's behind the recent the volatility is the name of the game with these things. That's kind of the whole point, right? You buy them, you sell them, you buy them, you sell them.
Yeah.
But it's kind of had a rough month. Ethereum, I think, on its pace for its worst month in years.
But so is tech, right? So some could say this is just the healthy correction that was needed at this time, and valuations are sky high. More specifically with Bitcoin and Ether, if we're thinking big picture heading into 2022, I think regulation should be a topic of conversation. You had the SEC that rejected VanEck's Bitcoin ETF very recently, and that has to do with how it's doing with stable coins. So there's a lot of regulations. There's a Republican senator putting forth a crypto proposal. All of this means that there could be much more regulation, a great thing for the industry as a whole, but it's maybe adding to some of that sell-off that we're seeing in the near term.
All right, we'll see what happens next year. By the way, for all things crypto, be sure to tune into the CNBC special program, Crypto Night in America. That is tonight. Did you know that? Tonight is Crypto Night in America, 6 p.m. Eastern. It's Festivus. All right, next up, Homebuilders, the home construction ETF, ticker ITB, continues to outperform the broader market of 8% in December. Its fifth positive month in the past year. Mike Santoli up 50% this year. I mean, who are you talking to? Is anybody suggesting home builders are going to get weak anytime soon? This is unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and it's certainly technically the charts look like they're pretty encouraging. So that does tell you that there's a lot of sponsorship for this general theme in the markets. Even on the retail side, if you look at Home Depot and Lowe's recently, they've been the strongest retail stocks in the market, maybe aside from Costco. So it obviously is something that is not an unrecognized bullish case out there. I do think you have to ask whether the supply-demand story longer term is a pretty good debate going on, actually, is whether there is a genuine enduring shortage of homes out there. It's kind of like they're just not in the right places. So I do think you have to give the benefit of the doubt to the trend, but I'm very alert to the idea that, look, they look cheap, but cyclical groups like this always kind of look cheap on earnings when things are basically as good as they're going to get. So I would say, you have to defer to the trend, knowing that mortgage rates are very friendly, knowing the consumer balance sheets are in good shape, but I'm just not sure that's unrecognized anymore.
Danielle, you have a take on the home builders?
I love the home builders here. I mean, I'm currently long Home Depot, Lowe's, ITB. I completely agree that Lowe's and Home Depot are the relative strength winners in this space. Both companies have continued to be incredibly strong. I mean, the last 3 quarters, they've continued to beat earnings. And what we're seeing right now is we're seeing millennials buying homes. We're also seeing a major increase in home equity. And so that means that people have more money to spend on remodels. So I'm continuing to look at both Home Depot and Lowe's to the long side. I think they're going to make new highs pretty quickly here. And as for the rest of the home builders, I like Toll Brothers and D.R. Horton.
I like that because it goes to my predictions about the baby boom, because when you buy a house in the burbs with 4 bedrooms and there's 2 of you, you know what you do? You try to fill up those bedrooms with little tiny babies. Next up.
Yes.
Yes. Next up, don't give me that look, Parts and Evelos. I can see you on this giant monitor over here.
Oh, I'm right around the corner from you, too. But go ahead.
You can hear me without the mic on, but so can all the viewers. All right, up next, inflation. The cost of pretty much everything is through the roof right now. That must mean coupon clipping is at all-time highs? Nope. New data shows the rate that searches for keywords like cheap and discount are actually declining. Christina, First off, I'm surprised there are actually still coupons, but, you know, electronic or paper, you get the gist.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Well, you would think that maybe we complain about inflation all the time. We talk about inflation all the time. Our surveys show we care about inflation, and yet our Google searches say otherwise. This is according to DataTrek. They put out research saying that the volume in searches when it comes to those words like coupon, discount has dropped dramatically. And why is that? One could argue wage growth. And you have a lot of companies that are taking advantage of this. Egg producer Cal-Maine said that their egg prices have gone up 12%. And then you had General Mills very recently saying that they had price hikes and they are going to continue the price hikes into the new year. The same thing for that egg producer. And so we're willing to accept these costs. The big question is, for how long? And this does not bode well for, I guess, the next 6 months or so, because that could mean definitely more increase in prices, especially when it comes to food.
Yeah, Mike Santroli, we had this piece on CNBC recently done by this Christina Partsenevelos, who talked about fertilizer prices. When those start to trickle through, it's conceivable the price of food is going to go up from here, not down.
It absolutely is conceivable. I do think there's indications like this, Google search data that say that is a bit of a more of an inflationary mindset that's spreading among the public. I would offer one little caveat to this interpretation, though. One of them is, the shortage mentality obviously was broadcast throughout. So people just felt like they needed what they needed and they couldn't necessarily shop as much by price. And maybe during the holidays, you're not necessarily looking for the cheapest. Maybe that's a generous view of how people approach buying stuff this time of year.
Danielle, inflation going to end the year hot next year?
Yes, I mean, I think inflation is going to continue to be hot. And of course, I mean, the Fed is going to try to do their best. I think they're a little bit behind on that front. But I mean, as far as coupons go, when I look at that data, I'm just looking at the fact that people are buying most everything online. I mean, there's not really a need for coupons at this point when you can simply go to Google and you can find exactly what you're looking for on a variety of different sites. So
I'll tell you what, I mean, not promoting Microsoft. Edge, the browser's got this thing built in where it basically will automatically scan for discounts. It's kind of cool. You watch it, it's like a slot machine. You're like, ooh, 12% off, on dog food.
Exactly.
All right, finally, can Boba Fett, the bounty hunter, help boost Disney shares? The new streaming series, The Book of Boba Fett, debuts on Disney Plus today, and hopes are very high. It'll follow in the footsteps of the wildly popular Mandalorian series. House of Mouse could use a jolt. Disney Plus subscriber growth slowing down, and COVID throwing a wrench into parks reopening. It's the worst Dow performer this year, off 14%. Let's talk about recapturing the magic. Mike, I don't know if you're a Star Wars guy or a Boba Fett. I mean, what an ignominious end, right? I mean, gets hit by a blind Han Solo, flies in that giant worm's mouth. I thought he was supposed to be tough. Anyway, is this going to help Disney stock?
Unfortunately, and you and I think basically were the exact perfect age to be Star Wars obsessed kids. I was not quite that much, but I think it's almost just table stakes when it comes to Disney Plus right now. They just have to feed, the platform with as much of these spin-off series as they can. I guess it would make sense to ask yourself, who is a candidate to rush to subscribe on the Boba Fett show who wasn't already there based on The Mandalorian? So to me, it's about the stock got a little bit over ahead of itself when people gave it credit for having a Netflix inside of it when sub growth was so strong. And then you realize it's really not just a streaming company and the economics aren't quite there across the board. It's been digesting that for years, for about a year now. Yeah,
just, Danielle, a limited series about an obscure character only favored by dorks like Mike and I just don't know if that's going to be enough.
I don't think it's going to be enough in the short term. However, I mean, I like Disney. I think that in the long term, this is a buying opportunity. I have been buying Disney shares pretty much for the last 6 months because I'm looking at it with more of a long-term view, right? I mean, Disney, obviously, huge name. They have a wide variety of product segments. At some point, if this pandemic ever ends, you're going to see cruise liners come back. You're going to see hotels come back. And I think that at that point, we will finally see Disney move on to make new all-time highs. But it's not going to be because of Boba Fett.
Christina, I can see you flagellating over there.
Because I wanted to interrupt.
Like,
do we really think that Disney's going to hit, their goal of 260 million subscribers by 2024 when they're only at, 118 million just this past November? So, yes, you're going to have to get a lot of people on board just within the next little while. Will the parks offset it? It's a nice bright spot, not so sure, because most investors just really care about the subscriber numbers, and they're not there.